Hello, Mark here. The topic of today's chess motif is decoying. This tactical maneuver is slightly harder than the ones we have already looked at in previous lectures. Decoying requires you to first imagine where you want your opponent to be, then manage to get him to that position, and also figure out what do you want to do, what do you want to accomplish when you're in that position. Whether a motif can be implemented should be dictated by the position you're in. This strongly applies to decoying. So, let's try and figure out what we can do in this position and how to spot a potential for a decoy. First, pause this video and see if you can find the winning move for white. The winning move is bishop takes on g5 check. If you found this move, congratulations, you must be a natural. From here, black king can either take on g5 or move to f5. Either way, white plays queen to f4 checkmate. The logic behind this move is fairly straightforward. Firstly, an opposite colored bishop is technically an extra piece if you are attacking. Coupled with the coincidence that the black king is on a black square and white happens to have a black bishop, white must attack. Next, notice how the white queen on c7 is cutting off the 7th rank to the black king. So if the king was forced to move, the only move he can make is f5. And even though by taking the pawn on f5 you're creating an extra square for the king to move, after the white queen moves to f4, she will be controlling the diagonal, not allowing the king to escape to the h6 square. Believe it or not, black also has a winning move in this position, given of course that it is black's turn to move. Now that I've shown you a glimpse of what decoying is, see if you can find the winning move for black. The winning move is queen to h3 check. If king takes on h3, then bishop f1 checkmate. If king goes to g1 or h1, queen f1 checkmate. And finally, if king goes to f3, then he is mated by the pawns g4 check, king to f4, g5 checkmate. How embarrassing for the white king. More often than not, this tactical maneuver is used to decoy the king, because you can continuously force him to move. Also, you have to remember to position your strongest pieces for an attack. This is sometimes referred to as the setup. And it is important to set up your pieces in a way that you can follow through with the whole tactical maneuver that you have envisioned. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Have a great day, and just remember, practice makes perfect. Now that you've learned the basics of decoying, let's move to a slightly harder position. White to move in this position. It is not yet apparent what you should focus your attack on. However, here's a small hint. Suppose there was a black piece on d6 or c7, then the white queen would be x-raying that piece, meaning that after rook takes on e5 check, and black responding in some manner, the white queen could potentially capture on d6 or c7. So, what is this mysterious piece, and how do we decoy it to move to one of these squares? Now that you have this hint, pause the video and try find the winning move. The winning move is rook to d6. If queen takes on d6, then rook takes on e8 check, and after rook takes on e8, white queen takes the black queen on d6. Okay, let's go back. If the black queen moves to c7, then rook takes on e8 check, and after rook takes on e8, rook takes on g6 check, and after h takes on g6, queen takes queen on c7. So, how to find this move? Taking into account the hint that I gave you, notice that the black queen is starved for squares to move to. The diagonal d8 h4 is under white's control. The d file can potentially be controlled by the white rook. And the only square under no immediate threat is c7. That basically tells us that should we threaten the queen, she would most likely move to c7. In this case, if she captures our rook on d6, it also works. There is also a winning move for black. And just to show you my support for your journey to becoming grandmasters of chess, I'll give you another small hint. Notice how the black knight can fork the e5 and d2 squares if he jumps to c4. Now pause this video and see if you can figure out a way to decoy something worth forking onto those squares. The winning maneuver is as follows. Rook takes on e5, queen takes on e5. See what I did there? Cheeky, hey? Next, queen takes on d2 check, and after king takes on d2, knight to c4 check, winning back the queen. But now black is a knight up and should be able to win this game, no problem. At this stage, you're probably wondering if there is some sort of formula as to when to play a decoy or some other tactical maneuver. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Often, you'll intuitively know when there is a possibility of gaining a material advantage. However, you know the saying, practice makes perfect. And before I start this next puzzle, I should give you a warning that this puzzle might cause your brain to melt. To ease the pressure, let's first look at this position from black's point of view. How would you have played in this situation if you had black pieces? If you wish, you may pause this video and try find the winning move. The winning move is rook to h1 check. After king takes on h1, queen to h8 check. Then king goes back to g1, then queen h2 check, and after king f1, queen to g2 check, mate. Notice square f2 is protected by the bishop, so you can't mate the white king there. So, how to see this move? Ultimately, you should see that if the black queen was on the second rank, it would be a piece of cake to checkmate your opponent. So how do we get Her Majesty there without allowing white to react? Forcing moves is the answer. By playing rook h1, we are sacrificing the rook. However, we are decoying the white king to come to h1. And after that, the rest is history. Okay, so now the hard stuff. white to move. I won't give you any hints this time, just see if you can find the winning move. The winning move is queen takes on f6 check. If king takes on f6, bishop d4 checkmate. If king goes to h7, then rook h3 check, and after king g8, rook takes on h8 checkmate. If king goes to g8 straight away, then the white queen continues. Queen takes on g5 check, king f8, and after d7 check from the black bishop, the black queen has to take the bishop on c5, then b takes on c5, and it is game over for black. Notice that the bishops are opposite in color. Therefore, white should attack and preferably avoid any white squares, so black cannot utilize his bishop. That, coupled with how starved for space the black king is, should significantly narrow down the variations available for white in this position. And in this video, I would like to show you how grandmasters of chess use the motif of decoying. This game was played in Slovenia in the town called Bled in 1961 between Tigran Petrosian and Ludek Pachman. Petrosian had white pieces and started with knight to f3, c5, g3, knight to c6, bishop to g2, g6, white castles kingside, bishop to g7, d3, e6, and only now does white play e4. Petrosian is trying to advance this pawn to the square e5 without have to playing d4 as a preliminary move to defend the pawn on e5. So, moving on. Pachman plays knight from g to e7, rook to e1, black castles kingside, e5, and now black plays d6, attacking the white pawn on e5, therefore forcing the pawn to take. This creates a weakness for white in the center, or should I say a lack of presence for white in the center. However, black also loses a central pawn on the d file, and now his pawn on c5 is pushed out too far, and that is also a weakness at the moment. So, moving forward, Petrosian takes the pawn on d6, queen takes on d6, knight to b2, getting ready to jump to either e4 or c5, thus attacking the queen on d6. So Pachman preemptively moves the queen away, queen to c7, knight to b3, attacking the pawn on c5. On a side note, the knight on b3 is positioned very poorly. However, this is just temporary. So let's move on with the game. Knight to d4, bishop to f4 attacking the queen, queen to b6, knight to e5. At this stage, black could take the knight on e5. However, they would create a weakness on the black squares around their king. Black play knight takes on b3, and before a takes on b3, Petrosian plays a preemptive move attacking the queen with knight to c4. Queen to b5, a takes on b3, and now black plays a5. Let's pause here for a second. Why does black play this move? Let's go back. Well, I think Pachman saw a threat in the move rook to a5. attacking the queen. Because the queen is very constricted. It can't move on the A file because of the rook. She can't jump back to the square b6 because of the knight on c4. And if she moves to b4, then pawn to c3 and the black queen will be trapped. The square b6 is also off limits because of the white knight on c4. So is the square c6 because of the bishop on g2. So the only two squares the black queen could move would be d7 or e8. And agreeably, moving the queen to any of these squares puts black in a positional disadvantage. Hence the reasoning for a5. What Pachman failed to see is that there is a much bigger threat on the board. Bishop to d6, pinning the knight. Bishop to f6, queen to f3, attacking the bishop, king to g7, protecting it, and with this move, white is setting up for the winning maneuver. However, black failed to see the winning maneuver for white and played rook to d8. Now, if you wish, you may pause this video and try find the winning move for white. I will remind you that the motif we're looking for in this position is decoying. Have you found it? Well, if you did, you've mastered decoying. Queen takes bishop on f6 was played in the game. King takes on f6, bishop to e5 check, king to g5, and bishop to g7. And in this position, black resigned in view of the following moves. Let's say black plays any random move, h4, and depending on whether the king goes to h5 or f5, the white bishop would go to f3 or h3 respectively. Let's just look at one of them. Say f5, bishop to h3, check, mate. Did you find the winning move? As you can see, it is related to the motif of decoying, as white decoys the black king to come out of his well-defended corner of the map. And after that, bishop to e5 prevents him from going back in there, forcing him to come out. And then a truly genius move, bishop to g7. This prevents the black king from jumping to h6 or f6. The rook is cutting off access to the e-file and the fourth rank. So the king is trapped and there is nothing black can do about it.